Yo, it's your boy DC3, and this is Dctree-Nation, the channel on YouTube that covers hoops and heroes. And today we're talking hoops. We're talking my dog Devin Vassell, y'all. And I have to be honest, I do not talk about this guy enough, but his game has been silky smooth and it's forcing me to talk about him, man. And as a Spurs YouTuber, I feel like I let y'all down. I let him down. I need to talk about Devin Vassell more and more. To be honest with you, he deserves more credit at this point than Primo. More media than Primo, but it doesn't work out that way. So for my role in that, Devin, I'm sorry, dog. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being excited for Primo, but man, let's take a step back and think about our lottery pick from last season that's actually on the court, getting time, putting in work. Devin Vassell, let's give him some roses, man, because his game has been silkier than Spider-Man Web was that time. His game has been smoother than Shang-Chi was during that bus fight. Listen, Devin Vassell's game has been smoother than a Mono Ginobili bullet pass.
Great 50-50 play by tackle splitter, but then
I get what I'm trying to say, man. I need to pay more attention to my boy Vassell, and I know I said that in another video earlier this year, but I'm serious this time. I want to show my dog some love. But before I jump too deep into it, if you like my content, please sub to the channel, hit that like button, and don't forget to hit that bell. Thank you so much for the support. Alright guys, I'm gonna jump straight into this video, and this is kind of a weird thing to admit as a YouTuber, but I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna name this video as of yet. I'm leaning towards naming it or titling the video about him possibly being a starter, but he doesn't necessarily have to start. I think we're past that paradigm in the NBA where, you know, starters start and people come off the bench, yada yada yada. But I do think he does the increase in minutes. I mean, he's playing like 26 minutes a game, which is pretty good, you know, given how Pop does his rotations and stuff. But I think he deserves a few extra minutes a game if he is not a starter. But I can honestly see him starting for this team for a couple reasons. The first reason is that he seems to be the only person outside of DJ that can score consistently one-on-one. He seems like he's the only person that can do that, because even with Derek White and KJ, Keldon Johnson, averaging more points than Vassell, the way they get their points is very different. D. White is getting most of his points from the three-point line, and then Keldon Johnson is getting a lot of his points on like drives to the basket, offensive rebounds, putbacks, you know, things that kind of dry up at the end of games. And so, you know, when we need a bucket and DJ doesn't have it going on, or he's being double teamed, or he's having an off night, you know, Vassell has been kind of that person that can, you know, hit a step back jumper, go behind his back, drive to the middle, pull up for a quick deuce. Other players on the team haven't been able to do that, and I'm kind of surprised with the whole Derek White thing, seeing that, you know, I honestly felt like coming into this season he was our best offensive player. Like, I really thought that, but just watching him play, you know, he seems like he's going to shoot the three, and he's going to go take it to the basket a couple times a game early on in the game, and then, you know, that's where his bread and butter is going to lie. And so with that said, I could see Pop maybe giving Vassell Derek White's position just to see how it works out, because you're not really losing a whole lot defensively, so it could work. Also, I want to clarify what I mean about D. White being our best offensive player. I felt like he was the best well-rounded. I did have Keldon Johnson probably leading us in scoring, but I felt like, you know, Murray was still be in that vein of being more of a stat stuffer, which he's still doing that, but he's taking his scoring to the next level. But I felt like all around D. White was more of a natural scorer. That's what I mean by that, because I did have him, you know, I guess as the third leading scorer in one of my earlier videos this season, and I stand by that, but I just felt like he was the most gifted offensive player out of the three, if that makes sense. And also, I do understand that, you know, Vassell is a step behind Derek White when it comes to defensive prowess, like taking charges and blocks and those type of things. And we still need Derek, but he may be able to come in with the second unit and do some work and that might open up his offense a little bit. And then you still have another, more versatile scorer in your starting lineup, and they can play together at the end of games or whatnot, depending on what team we're playing against. Just mix and matching, scenarios, and not doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, because we do go on these offensive droughts. And clearly Vassell has been our second best scorer in terms of how he scores. His points aren't as good as Keldon and D. White's, but his ability to pull up from 3, for instance, and be effective, his ability to drive to the basket, stop on a dime, hit the mid-range jumper, those type of intangibles are some things that we need in that fourth quarter that we just don't have. Another scenario you could try is benching McDermott, putting Keldon Johnson back at the 4 position, and then playing Vassell at the 3. You could try that. And I'm not a huge fan of that scenario, because I do like what McDermott brings to the starting lineup, his ability to shoot, his ability to stretch the floor. And I think that's very important when you have DeJounte Murray in the starting lineup, etc. But I will say this, McDermott has been off for the last 2-3 games. And when he's off, man, he is off. I'm talking about ice cold. When he's hot, he's hot. When he's cold, he's cold. And he's kind of a bit of a liability on defense on top of that. I felt like we lost that Dallas game because Pop left McDermott in there a little too long for someone not making shots. So I can see Vassell doing that, taking the 3 position, KJ taking the 4. But the only problem with that is obviously the size issue that the Spurs have. We were looking really small against the Pacers and even the Mavs when Boban came in. So the idea of getting smaller, it doesn't really set right with me. But this is just a speculation video, and maybe this is something that's not permanent, but something you can do, here and there, depending on the matchup and whatnot, to get Vassell going earlier in the game, get him more involved, build his confidence or whatnot, because this is a building year. So we have to, just like DJ is breaking out, we have to try to let these players break out so we can decipher who's the star in the group. They're all kind of bunched together. Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, DJ, and then, DJ is pulling away a little bit, but they all kind of bunched together. What do we do with Lonnie Walker? All these questions can only be answered if we give people starting, more minutes, starting opportunities to kind of weed out the weaker players so we can let them go or trade them and whatnot. And I'm saying all that, and we still got Primo with all this potential in Austin. So this is a lot of decisions the Spurs need to make. This isn't the year to get stagnant. You want to kind of play around with your matchups, I think. But I will say one thing before I get out of here. It is just kind of weird having 2 straight years of having a lottery pick, and for us to have to struggle to find these guys enough time. Like Primo's not playing at all. Vassell, he's coming off the bench. I know that has to be unusual for you to have 2 lottery picks in a row, and both of them, are like side characters. And not necessarily because they're not producing or they're not talented. It's just like we don't have like the minutes for them to really grow like they could if they were on like a Sacramento team or or a lesser team or like a Houston or something, where they could run free and make mistakes and play 40 minutes a game and whatnot. And I guess that's kind of a blessing, because that means we do have depth, but at the same time it causes a problem because we don't know exactly people's ceiling and how far they can go. And I think that's kind of hurting Vassell, and I can see that kind of hurting Primo down the line. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Let me know what you think of the situation. Just a speculation video, and check out the other videos on the channel, and I will see you in the comments. Peace.